Hi, everybody. Episode 9. As I fiddle with this camera for the 100 millionth time, poor Aaron has been staring at me for 40 minutes up my nose and looking at my head and wherever else we're trying to put this camera with these lighting issues we got here. But this is about the best it's going to be, isn't it? I think. But
I
anyway,
think.
hey, the man of the hour is what matters. You could see him very plainly over there right next to me. But episode 9 of the Build My Church podcast. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Brian, and a member of the Build My Church team over here is Aaron. Jeska, Aaron, how you doing today?
I am awesome, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Thanks for taking time to get back with us. We getting back in the hang of doing these again, and there's been a little pause after the holidays and the first part of the year with a lot of stuff going on. My basketball season came to an end. Aaron and his wife coached for our school, Cadillac Heritage Christian, the elementary team, and its season just ended last week, right?
Just last week. It seemed like it's been forever, but yeah, just last week.
And you guys had a great year. You had 13 players. I got to see a couple of your games. You guys, elementary level is always fun.
Yeah, the girls are all fun. They're uh I think the biggest challenge is my wife being a teacher, she communicates very well with the younger kids. Me, I think I communicate well, but I'm like an alien with three heads, and they look at me that way. And I'm like, come stand right here, and they walk across the court to the other side. I'm like, no, right here. Like, it doesn't. I don't communicate well with the younger girls, but I don't think I changed the way I communicate. I think they just started picking up on it because it got better as the towards the end of the year.
Oh,
Being
100%. I'm
adjusted.
sure. Oh, yeah. You starting out, you never know what you got. You get your first couple practices in the game, and then it moves along. And I always think, no matter how many games you have, you can always use about 5 more because
Oh yeah,
you always hit your stride about when the season's done.
yeah. The girls showed huge improvement. It was awesome. It was fun.
Yeah, well, you guys did a fantastic job. I know everybody is thankful for you coming in and taking care of that. Adding on to your plate, you guys both have tons going on, which is the topic of episode 9 here. This began over a year ago, us talking and sharing about the church, and we just want to build God's kingdom, obviously, which is what we're trying to do. And we've dealt with a lot of the different aspects of that. But exciting news here today to get to share. So, Aaron, I'm going to let you share it.
So, well, we've been praying about it for a long time, and I'm kind of that guy. Like, God's got to really smack in the head, sometimes knock me over. Uh, the good thing for me is I got an awesome wife, and so God really uses her to communicate and confirm things. You know,
Sure.
uh, so many times, you're ready, and God says, no, it's not time yet, and then God's ready, and He's like, hey, catch up. Uh,
Yeah.
so, anyways, April 14th, we're going to be opening a church. We're renting the high school gym, the refurbished gym. Used to be the old junior high gym.
Yeah. Cadillac
Uh,
High School Gym, right?
Cadillac High School gym on Linden Street.
Yep.
And, we're going to be starting services at 11 a.m. And we're going to be in that building for the foreseeable future and until we can find a more permanent place.
So you're starting April 14th. What is the name of your church again?
So the name of our church is called Aim for the Kingdom. So we use the acronym AIM. It stands for All In Ministries. And that's a name we've had picked out for such a long time.
Yeah.
And of course, my wife came up with that. And I say she came up with it. God revealed it to her. We were tossing around names, and after about the 200th name, my wife's like, "You need to stop. You're giving me a headache." Uh, I'm coming up with anything and everything, and probably 197 of them already were taken by somebody.
Well, that's the part of it I wanted to talk about a minute because coming up with a name, there's how many churches in the country are there, let alone
Yeah,
the whole world, right? And
right.
then starting from scratch, man, I'm excited for you because that's right down our alley as our ministry here, as you're a part of Build My Church. So when you get to that part, that's not just these catchy things don't just drop in your lap. Maybe they do for some people, right? But you guys really hashed it out and talked about it and prayed through it. Some of the ones that drop into your head, give us a couple of them that you had that maybe didn't work.
I talked about a new beginnings. She looked that up, and um, because me, I don't think about one. I give my wife a stomach ache and headache because I'm like, well, this would be a great name so that way it doesn't matter where we started church when we get to where we planted our 10th church. And she's like, oh, she's like, you gotta get your first one started.
Yeah, but you got to
I'm
get
like,
one to get 10. So there you go.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. But I did, yeah, I did a new beginning. Um, boy, I went back. My grandfather built a church way back when, and they used the full gospel mission. And so I'm like, what about the full gospel mission? But that's been used over and over and over.
Yeah.
And you really have to go through the state of Michigan and then federal like search, and you type in what you want, and it searches the whole country basically and tells you yes, this is available, or no, it's not available. And after about a week of really going through and prayed about things, she's like, well, what do you think about this? And at first it was just All In Ministries, but we searched that and it was taken. Um, so she's like, what do you feel about All In Ministries for the kingdom or All In Ministries for Christ? And I'm like, man, for the kingdom, like that just feels, that just, it clicks. Like when it's from God, it just clicks.
Right.
And I'm like, that's it. That's perfect. I'm like, search that one. Nobody's got that. Search that one, and she did, and nobody had it. And
Yeah.
there it is. We went in, paid the money, claimed it, and
Good. So All In Ministries for the Kingdom. I love it. That is, it's unique, but it says exact. No one has to guess what your desire is when they see that name.
right. And we feel good about it because we feel like people don't have to say that every time. They can just say, well, have you been to the AIM church?
Yeah.
Are you going to the AIM church? Like it's an easy acronym to remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, when it's spelled out, it really does say what we're all about.
Yeah. AIM, because AIM. Boy, there's a lot of good preaching points from that. There's a lot of great theological stuff there too. What where are you aiming at? Are you aiming for yourself? Are you aiming for things of God? I mean, you've got it right on.
Well, and the All In Ministries, as soon as she said that, the first thing I thought of was, in Revelations when God's talking about the churches, and
Mm-hmm.
he comes, I want to say it's chapter 3, and I don't remember which church it is, but he says, I wish that you were hot or cold,
Laodicea. Yeah.
but you're lukewarm,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. And All In isn't lukewarm, All In's hot.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and that's what Christ wants. He doesn't want people to be like, I live my life for God, but I have all these other things in my life, and none of us are perfect, but we're striving for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he doesn't want all those other things in our life. And here we are setting an example. And so when new Christians come, we can set that example of, they're like, oh well, that must be okay because I mean they do that. They're Christians.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want us lukewarm with a bunch of garbage in our lives. He wants us
No.
hot and on fire for Christ and living the good example and doing the right things. And and All In, I mean, there's just so many different ways to look at that. But that was the scripture that came to my mind right away, was he doesn't want us to be lukewarm. He wants us to be on fire.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. You said earlier before we started recording, you were talking about having things at your house. Then, so what's a typical Sunday? So you're going to start the 14th there at Cadillac High School in the new auditorium, and then what time is that?
So we're gonna start at 11 a.m. And it'll just be your, I don't want to say normal Sunday service. We're not looking to copycat anybody. We're not looking to, we're not here to put any other church down. That's not what we're here to do.
Right.
But we're really looking. We've done one video so far, but I've been shaking hands and talking to people. We're really building our platform on no judgment. We're building our platform on we don't care if you're ex-convict, ex-drug addict, an ex-drunk. We don't care if you have purple hair, pink hair. We don't care if you have tattoos. If you have piercings everywhere, it doesn't matter to us what you look like. It matters to us if do you want to change in your heart, how your heart is now, or how are you? Do you want to give God a chance to be in your heart? That's what matters to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've, I know growing up, I went to these little churches, and I'm not saying anything about churches today, like once again, I'm not here to offend anybody, but I grew up very Pentecostal, and there were some really judgmental people in those churches, and you would walk in, and I remember after being out of church for a couple of years and going back and getting, just feeling ashamed to walk in, and it wasn't God making me feel ashamed, but like everybody's turning around and like, oh, here's that sinner finally coming home, and you're just like, oh, I just don't want to deal with this.
Right.
Like you could feel them judging you with their eyes when you walked in the back door, and that's not what we want to portray. We just, when people come in, we just want to be like, this is our friend in your home.
Yeah.
That's how we want them to feel.
Yeah. You get less judgment, when people in the world, when a buddy comes into the place wherever they're at, and even if they're going to do some bad stuff, they high five
Yeah,
them and they hug them and all that. And sometimes when we come in right to where we're supposed to be, they look at like, well, what are you doing here? Well, this is where you're supposed to be. So let's make them feel like they're wanted and welcome. And
yeah.
I have no doubt, I have all confidence you guys will create that kind of setting. How do you do that? Because I agree with you 100%. So, but keeping that, as you share leadership and as you grow and other people become part of, if it's greeting team or however, what's your philosophy on that? How do you do that from door to door?
I feel like my wife put it best. She said, uh, you know, well, growing up for me, like I never felt like I fit in. It didn't matter where I was. It doesn't matter if I was home with my family. It didn't matter what church I was in. I never felt like I fit. You know,
Yeah.
uh, and my wife experienced some of that, and basically she put it best. She said, it doesn't matter what woman walks through the door, she's gonna walk up, shake her hand, ask her name, and get to know her,
Yeah.
because we've been on the end of like, we've been in churches where everybody could see us, but nobody cared we were there.
Yeah.
Uh, Nobody came and introduced themselves. Nobody, um, it didn't make you feel warm like you were at home. We've been in churches where they said, "Hey, how are you? Thanks for coming," but nobody. You could tell they didn't care. It was just kind of lip service.
Right. Right.
And so we even been at churches where like you want to talk to the pastor, but he's not available. You know,
Yeah.
and I went to a church in Traverse City one time where it was a huge church, had like 500-600 people going to it, and I was within walking distance from my apartment. So I walked over there, walked in the front door, and somebody greeted me, said, and this wasn't a Sunday morning, this was just middle of the week, and I said, hey, I just wondered if the pastor's if I could talk to him. They're like, sure, come on. Took me right to his office, sat down, we had like a 2-hour conversation, and I'm like, what a great example. That's what we're striving for. Like, we're not too busy. If we
Hmm.
ask how your day is, we mean it. you
Yeah.
know uh, we
Yeah.
care about what's going on in your life. We care about, uh if is God tugging at your heart. We care about those things. It matters to us, because uh how can we be all in but just give lip service? That's not how it works.
Right.
And so the example my wife gave, like, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. That matters. um yeah, and we just, I'm sure there's other awesome churches in Cadillac. uh God just never revealed us where we should go and be part and sit in one. And so the goal ever since her and I were married, and for me even before that, was I knew God was going to use us to plant a church somewhere. I just didn't know where.
Yep. Yep. One of our first conversations, getting to know each other, sitting at Starbucks that day, we were talking about that, and you were sharing your heart. You're like, I wanna. That's how you felt like God wanted you to, what you felt God wanted you to do, and you knew that, and it wasn't like it just happened then. It's something you and your wife knew, and it's so good to know that from the start of your married life. It wasn't like you woke up one day a couple of years after you got married and you tried to drop some bombshell on her or something, and she's like, "Whoa, hey, we didn't talk about that." No, you guys both knew God put you together for a reason, and you're fulfilling
Right.
that. And there's nothing better than that, is there?
Yeah, no, it's awesome when it happens, because God, in the Bible, God set them out by twos,
Mhm.
and they either come back like Joshua and Caleb of, we can do it, we can conquer the beast, or they come back like everybody else, and we can't do it, and this isn't our time, and we'll surely all die. If you
Yeah,
go into planning a church defeated before you get started, there's no point in starting.
Right.
But when God gives, and me and my wife are polar opposites. You know, she's very planned and very organized, and I'm like a fly by the seat of my pants guy, and I'm like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll work out. You know,
Yeah.
I drive 90 down the road with no seatbelt, and she's like, slow down and buckle your seatbelt, and I'm like, God's got a purpose, we got this.
Yeah. I'm in good shape. Yep.
Yeah. I'm like, we're just polar opposites, but when He can give two polar opposites the same frame of mind, that's God, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now here you are. You've got to be pinching yourself to some degree, thinking, man, we're closer now than ever because now we're just about ready to see it happen. Um, you got all those pews too. Are you going to keep them in case you need them down the road?
Well, yeah, the plan is to keep them and keep them stored in the garage. That's garages are not for cars; they're for church pews.
Who puts a car in the garage anyway? That's crazy. That's sick.
Right, right.
Um,
You know, hopefully, you know, when we find a building, they're there, um, and if we don't find a building for a while, it's okay. Like, you know, if God provided this, He'll provide the next step. You know.
well, listen, tell the story. You told me how. I think you did this before we recorded. How you got to the high school there in Cadillac, because I know you had a few other things that we've been praying about that you were looking at, and then this happened.
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is you know it's got timing because forever, you know, I'm like driving around town and we're looking at buildings and I'm calling real estate agents and I'm calling and talking to people and you know, we're looking at maybe a 500 square foot building for $1,400 a month, and we're like, wow, that's pretty crazy for money, and I get it. We're in inflation, like
Oh,
it's today's world. It is what it is.
right.
But when you're starting a church and you know God's going to provide, but as humans, you still have that uncertainty, you know.
Sure. Sure.
And but if God had wanted us to take one of those buildings, He'd have made us confident in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you know, Kelly knew there was a lunch lady at Heritage whose mom used to be a pastor, and I said, you know, why don't you talk to her? And so she went and talked to her and said, hey, you know, we're looking for a church building. You know, does your mom still own the building? And she said, well, she just sold it to the Methodist Church. She said, but have you ever checked into the high school gyms or the gyms? She said the Cadillac area school is very faith friendly. And in my head, I'm going like, why didn't I think about that before? Because, you know, I've used gyms in the past for lots of different things.
Right.
Men's league basketball, a couple revivals. I know they're there. And you know, the only answer is it wasn't time yet.
Exactly.
You know, God doesn't like to think if it's not time yet.
Yeah.
And so they had just finished you know, it's the old junior high gym, refurbished it to make it the practice gym for the high school. Like when I walked in, it still had the new smell. They still hadn't scrubbed the floor yet. They hadn't buffed the floor or anything because you couldn't. That's how new it was. And so, yeah, they were like, oh, we'd love to. It's a great deal. They're only going to charge us $20 an hour. So it's going to be $60 a Sunday.
Good.
They get this time to set up, tear down, have service. And you know, they're like, as long as you need it, it's yours.
So there's not a contract where it's just by the year. It's just as long as every week you're in there for the month, you pay it and you go. That's fantastic, man. That's really good.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
We could pay by the week. We could pay by the week, by the month, by the 6 months, by the year, however we want. They're very, very willing to work with whatever we need. So
then you said, so service will be there, and it's strictly you're not doing classes there yet or anything. It's just
no,
it's your
just
11 o'clock
strictly
service.
Sunday morning service at 11 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have
And
to set chairs up, or you're gonna use the bleachers, or what?
so there's a set of bleachers, and so you know we were talking about starting this on the 7th, but then we're like, well, we need to set up and tear down once.
Yeah.
And see what's going on. So the thought process is to have, you know, we're gonna have some chairs and have the bleachers they're quite wide, but they're about 4 high.
Yeah.
So the thought process is to have the bleachers and then have a group of chairs in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're getting a projector so we can put words on the screen, and we've got our worship leader, and we're kind of gearing up, and they're sorting through music right now, and
Oh, that's awesome.
purchasing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's so much more to it than I would just be like, I would just set up a pulpit up on the street corner
Yeah.
and start preaching and hope people were coming. But my like I said, my wife's like, well, did you think about this? Did you think about this? And I'm like, well, that's why God gave me you.
There you go. Well said. Well said. And I think that's part of the reason why we both married up pretty high. You know, pretty. We both have
Yeah,
nosebleeds, right? For how high
right.
it up. I just think it's phenomenal that place. It's centralized. Everybody knows where that is. It's easy
Yeah.
to tell people where it's at. They don't have to say, you know, what road is that on or what building, or they're not going to pass it. Just making sure you'll have signs out where to turn to park to get back there. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Your team consists of who then? Obviously, it's you and Kelly, your wife. Who else have you
So
got?
for now, it's yeah, myself, my wife, and our son, Chris. He's my stepson. I just call him my kid. He's a good kid.
Sure.
And he's going to be our worship leader. You know, there's well, you have Reagan. So there's people that are good at singing and good at playing instruments, and there's people that are anointed.
Yeah.
And so obviously when Reagan sings, like the spirit moves. And Chris is the same way. When he play, it doesn't matter if he's playing or if he's singing, the spirit moves, and you feel God. And so that's our starting point. And as we grow and we get people in, we're looking to add and build a worship team and
Yeah.
we'll build Sunday school teachers and go from there. But we just want to start small and I don't think we're going to start really small, to be honest with you. But
No,
I
I
don't know
don't
how.
either.
Like I just talk to everybody. I'm like
Yeah.
you. It doesn't matter. Like some guy came in the store. Trying to think of his name. His name was Todd Schaefer. Was his name? I can remember his name. And he comes in and I talked to him for a couple of minutes. He said he just moved up from Bay City, him and his wife, and so I'm in Gordon's. I'm like, hey, you guys found a church yet? And so I started talking about what we're doing and how we're building, and gave him the website information. And so when we share this and I put this on our page, Todd, I hope you're watching because I remembered your name.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't remember anything, so
Yeah. There you go. That's awesome, and that's a great segue to get into how people can find all the info about it. So I know because I am on your Facebook page, and it's AIM for the Kingdom, right?
for the kingdom. Yep, and it's the same thing for our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And then we're also, it's not complete yet. We're building a website.
Okay.
And once we get there, once we get the website, we'll be going down to get a phone line. We'll get that put on there, and we'll get our email address. Our email address is allinministrieschurch@gmail.com.
Okay.
Just like that, allinministrieschurch@gmail.com. So
Now, are you going to live stream yet, or is it simply let's just come in and have church and work on that maybe later?
I don't know that we're going to live stream the first week. We are going to live stream Sunday the 7th. We're going to go there, kind of talk, walk up to the school, show the parking lot, show how to get in the side doors where we're going, walk into the gymnasium, kind of show things, get a
Okay.
so we're going to do that. I don't know if we're going to live stream services yet, just because we still have so many things we need to purchase. And so I don't know when that camera system, when we get that, it'll come quickly.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how quickly.
No, I got you. You've got what you need to get started. That stuff will come. Really, I don't want this to sound wrong. I believe in live streaming, obviously, for stuff like that. But for what you're doing to be a part of it, man, in person's where it's at. You want to be there.
Oh yeah.
And experience it by being together. But it's a good outreach too for folks that can't get out, or if they're gone and out of town or whatever, especially for the disabled and elderly and stuff like that. But if I can't get there, if I'm we're busy at our church and stuff like that, obviously I want to see what's going on, and I plan on coming in there and getting to be there with you too some when we're able to. So, but I also want to be able to check in and see how it's going. So I think it's a good tool. But, yeah, for sure.
It's amazing the support we've gotten. We've gotten people from other churches that are like, hey, we're just going to come for the first. We have our church, because we're not looking to take anybody from their church. That's not what we're here to do.
Right.
If you and I don't want to sound rude, but if you have a church jumper, they're going to come and then they're going to jump and go to somewhere else anyway. So
exactly. No, that's not what you're about.
But we've had quite a few people like, hey, we're going to come for a couple Sundays just to support you and be there and pray with you and just be there to support you the first couple Sundays. And so we're excited about that, and have people that are friends we didn't know were friends, and people, that are just very like, this is awesome. We're proud of you guys. We appreciate you guys. Like, and I think it's really because we're starting out different.
Yeah.
I don't feel like any church starts out like the United States, where they said, "Send us your poor and hungry," and we're like, we don't care. Just come. We don't care what you look like. We don't care we don't care if you smell bad. We don't care what you talk like. We just want you there, and we want you to be part of our family. That's what we're all about.
Absolutely. And it's just what the Bible says, all whosoever will come, and
Yeah.
take of the water of life freely. There's no, I don't even know if churches start out to be that way to discriminate, for lack of a better word, or segregate or things like that. But sometimes it happens as you evolve, and you don't want that to happen. And it's not going to happen with you guys, because I know your heart. Your heart's going to continually be what leads this to your heart, that God gave you to start this, whenever, how long ago that was. You're right there at the doorstep of it now. You're just a couple of weeks away. That's got to be exciting, to have people to work with. So you've got your son, you got your wife, Joss, I'm sure, as you affectionately call Junior, which I love that
You-
you do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, she'll be involved. It's a family. Uh, a family starting a part of the church family, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah. So we're not to get away from what we're talking about. We're also, so on April 6th, we're gonna do a once a month men's group. And so 9 o'clock in the morning at Herradura's, they're blocking off the side room for us. So it's just April 6th men's group.
All right.
And we're just gonna talk. We're just guys, and we're not ordering food. We're just getting drinks. But because it's the restaurant's not open yet.
Yeah.
The
Good.
the manager
Yeah.
of the restaurant, yep, Nicholas, has been so gracious to meet us there. He's going to join in with us.
Oh, fantastic, man.
Yeah, and so excited about that. Just a place to come talk about life, share the Bible a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, really,
Man,
just
that's needed big time. I mean, a lot of churches do a lot of different men's ministry stuff or whatever, but strip all the pretenses down. Let's just come sit down. What's going on in your life doesn't have to be all day. Doesn't have to be 5 minutes. That's good.
right.
Good. Fantastic. So that'll be once a month, the same Saturday every month, then, like the first Saturday of the month.
It'll be the first Saturday every month. Yep.
Okay.
And we'll get those dates posted on our Facebook page and on our um. It's crazy. I've been preaching for so long, and I sat down and recorded a message the other day, and then I went back and watched. I'm like, wow, like that's. I don't know if I just don't like watching myself, but I'm like, that's rough.
I
We
hate
got to
watching
do,
myself. I'm with
yeah,
you, man. Yeah.
like we better do that one over. So
I'm sure it was better than you thought. You're going to be your harshest critic for sure, but yeah, I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's great. Now the thing for you is going to be getting back in, getting back in. I don't want to call it the shape of preaching every week, but there is a
oh,
process to that. You're studying through
there
the
is.
week,
Yeah,
keeping your heart and mind open. Getting ready for
right.
that.
Well, it's a huge difference between like you're going to a church, and you're going a month ahead of time, and you pray about it. You got the whole month to get your message together, and
Right.
there's a big difference between that and then every Sunday, and then the once a month men's group where you're not really getting a message together, but we want to like our first week we're going to talk about loyalty. So we
Yeah.
have a subject. It kind of gets out there for everybody to think about that. But yeah, it's a lot different process. And then the hope is that once we get there, we see with the group of kids that we have, after the first couple Sundays, 3 or 4 Sundays, then we'll start doing a midweek youth service. We'll probably start at our house for the first couple weeks, and then once the weather warms up, we'll just start dedicating, like, hey, we're gonna go to this place. Everybody meet us here. We're gonna go to the park, or we're gonna go to the bowling alley, or we're gonna go to wherever it may be in Cadillac, and kind of do that and meet until we can get a building nailed down and
Yeah.
have that central place for us.
Well,
But we
you'll
don't
have
want to leave the kids out. We don't leave the kids out. I mean, that's the future.
absolutely, and you won't. You've got a plan already for them, and I mean, right down to you're going to just open your home up. Hey, we got a building we're in all the time. We got a place to bring them to or take them to or whatever. And again, that shows your heart as well. Um, so the best thing to find everything out about what's going on would be your Facebook page and eventually your website when that's up and
Yes.
running, right? So aim for the kingdom on Facebook. You type that in, it should pop right up.
Yep. Yep. Every time I top it in, it's the top one on the search bar, and it's got
Okay.
like a blue background with stars in it. So
Good. Well, then we'll even, if it's all right with you, we're going to obviously put this podcast. It goes on our page and it goes on everybody else's that's in the group here. If it's all right, we can post it there on that page as well, so people can see it.
yeah.
Then, if they want to give, is there a way to give? Let's say right now they've got maybe tugging on somebody's heart to share to help you with costs for things. Is there a way to go about that?
Right now we're working on that on our website link.
Okay.
So we really don't have that. I mean, if anybody wants to send something through the mail, what we can do is if you want to go to the Facebook page, we'll put our home address on there, and then we'll also put our Venmo on there.
Okay, even better.
And you
Good.
could go that way. And then as soon as our website's up and working, we will have just the church account that's attached to that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, we're going on vacation. We haven't been on one forever. We decided we want to take one before all this gets started. So that way you can't be all in if you're like, hey, we're going to start for 2 weeks and then we're taking off to Gulf Shores.
Yeah.
That's not really all in. So
Right.
Vacation, when we get back, then we're going to go get some of these final things nailed down and hopefully get this all together. I know a friend of mine, a childhood friend, that grew up in my church when I was a kid, is actually building our website for us.
Good.
Pretty excited about that, and he's going to be coming down to men's group, and got some people, a guy coming away from Petoskey for our first men's group. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
used to be my old boss, so we're excited just to reconnect with some of these guys, and it's people that like God has just put in my pathway through my whole life, that even when I wasn't, it's crazy because even when I wasn't serving God, I was still talking about God.
Yeah.
And so yeah, God's just used that and just been good and gave me favor with people, and we're just looking for, we're believing in really big things, like we really are.
Don't have any doubt in my mind, Aaron. I think Petoskey could be your next plant. Who knows? They come down there,
Yeah,
you start.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Who knows? You don't limit God. That's the one thing that I appreciate about you and your wife together. But when we spend time, when we pray and talk, it's never inside a box or a formula. It's always, hey, God, we're here, we're wide open. And you pray. I love how you pray. You pray specifically and diligently, but also purposely, intently. And we're allowed to do that. The word tells us to, pray without
Yeah.
ceasing, but ask and you shall receive. And you've been doing that for many, many years. How long have you been preaching?
Probably about 20 years now.
Okay.
I started when I was like 19, but I had a period in there when I was just kind of walked away and was tired of church. Let church drag me down. Let those judgmental people drag me down. And I look back and I'm like, why did I do that? What purpose does that serve? But I look at everything in my life I went through was for a purpose.
Right.
I went to those judgmental churches because God knew Cadillac, Michigan, April 14th, we were going to start a church, and I was never going to do that in our church, and I was never going to allow that. Like, we're going to set things up and do it the right way. And just through different walks of life, I walked away from God. So that way it helped me understood. Cause when I was young and I was so on, like I can do anything. And I'm not saying I'm not still like that, but I was like, I don't understand how anybody could walk away from God.
Yeah.
And then every time I would say something, like, I don't understand, I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like God saying, like, I'll show you how. And so it really helped me to understand people around me and be able to relate better and not be judgmental and not be, that person that points the finger. And I mean, if you think about it, because, people like, you want ex-convicts in your church? I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
The only difference between ex-convicts and me me and 90% of the rest of the world is that they got caught. We've all
That's right. That's right.
right. We've all been young and stupid and done dumb things. I'm not saying I
Sure.
robbed a bank or murdered somebody, but
No.
I was a kid. I was dumb.
Hey, you don't have to do stuff like that to be dumb or to be in sin. It's what happens. We all do
Yeah.
those things.
Right.
And by
Right.
God's grace, we're here. Doesn't that you said that it blows me away and just stop and think about it that God has always known since say before the day you were born that April
Yeah.
14th, 2024, this day would come and aim for the
Yeah.
kingdom church would be born. That just kind of gives you chills, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think about like when my mom was pregnant with me, a pastor, an evangelist came to our church and prophesied and said, if you raise them the right way, God's going to make a leader out of them.
Amen.
And,
Amen.
he knew back then, April 14th,
Yeah.
2024 in Cadillac, and he's known other things like he's going to preach revival here and he's going to, touch this person here. And it's not me, I'm not starting the church. It's the Christ in me,
Right.
And,
Right.
and when I say I'm not going to be judgmental of people and we're going to make everybody feel welcome, I can say anything I want and people might not believe me, but the Christ in me is going to grab a hold of them, going to tug at their heart and
Yeah.
make them feel welcome and let them see that they need a change in their life. I'm not here to point out people's faults. I got enough of my own.
I hear you.
We
I'm not
just
shaking my
want
head. I'm not agreeing with you. I don't think you have any fault. I'm saying I
yeah.
understand I
Oh
have them
no,
too.
yeah, we all
I'm
do,
like, you have fault. No, that's not what I meant. But you're right. I think when we forget that, and that's why your church is going to be perfect for folks to come in and just be able to blend in and be a part of it because the judgment isn't going to happen. And you take people at face value the way you've been received all of your life with all the things that you've told me you've been through.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And
Good.
The thing is it's crazy because I remember growing up in church and going to this church and the same woman that I was seeing visions and having dreams and I was picturing myself up behind a pulpit and it wasn't all clicking with me. And the same old woman preacher that walked up, put her hand on my shoulder and said, God called you to be a preacher, didn't he? And it all clicked, was the same woman preacher that gossiped about me behind my back, and I don't want to be that way.
Right. Right.
We don't want to be that way. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking,
No.
God can use anybody,
Yeah.
he really can. And when you're talking about, prayer life and faith and I think back to Joshua, when they're battling and God's like, you need to go and you need to kill everybody. I don't mean to sound so vulgar, but it was in the Bible times that happened.
Yeah.
And he said, don't take their wives, don't take their stuff, but you need to wipe them all out. And it was getting towards dark and Joshua prayed and said, God, I want to do what you told me to do, but I can't do it without your help.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
If you can extend the day. And so that's what happened. It's it's the sun staying still prayer, we call it.
Yeah.
Basically the Bible talks about like it went a whole nother day until Joshua could complete the mission before the sun went down.
Mm-hmm.
He prayed, God, if you could keep the sun above this valley and the moon above this valley.
Yeah.
We need to be able to see so we know what we're doing. And God didn't just keep the sun up, but he helped them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
he did. And that miracle we're still talking about. So, but we're talking about living that kind of life of faith, not to be famous, but to continually see God do great things through you, which is what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for me, that faith isn't, I don't care what God does for me always. Like I want to see people healed. I want to see, not just physically, but, we know that cancer being healed is a huge thing, and that can take a toll on a person's life. But we also know if they know they have cancer, they know what they're fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a broken heart, you don't know what you're fighting against.
Right.
You just feel worthless and you're confused and you don't know what to do. And so, that sun staying still prayer is not just for physical healing, it's for emotional healing. It's to lead people to Christ. And it's, I've had people come to my house and give me $5,000 checks. I've had people come to my house and give me cars. I've had people. I've had just about every type of blessing from God you can think of, and they're all amazing. And I want that for other people.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I'm
You
not.
don't want it. You want more from God, but it's not like you're trying to stockpile the blessings. You want other people to give them to.
Right. I don't want it for
Yeah.
me. I want people to experience. If you can't experience the fullness of Christ, then how are you going to serve them your whole life?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I want that for people. I want them to experience the fullness of Christ. Like, it's so important and it's so awesome when you get there, you know?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Getting there and staying there. And the way we stay there is through fellowship by being a part of a group of believers that meets, uh, once a week, if it's once a month, but you're giving them another opportunity for the church to meet once a week, which is so vital,
Right.
which is fantastic. It's got to, it's what you're called to do. When you're doing what you're called to do, there's nothing better. And you're taking it another step even greater. So I'm excited for you. I really am. I'm happy for you. We're looking forward to that day. Yeah, for sure. So again, look for them on Facebook. Aim for the Kingdom, and also the website, and then your YouTube page. Is it the same thing?
Yep, it's Aim for the Kingdom. Yep.
Aim for the Kingdom. But that's the YouTube channel. I'm sorry, got to get the
Yeah,
words down
YouTube
right.
channel. Yeah.
It's not a page; it's a channel. Hit the
Right.
hit the follow button on there. Aaron, the first person's going to walk in there Sunday morning. You got the run through you're doing on the 6th and 7th and all the stuff's going on. But when it comes time, it's that moment, whatever time they start coming in that Sunday. What's the first thing they're going to see when they get there, and what's your prayer that what they're going to experience when they and how they leave?
Well, the thing is when I was, I remember when I was younger, and when I thought about this, I'm like going, God, I'm telling God what I need,
Yeah.
I'm like, God,
Yeah.
I need a core group of believers
Right.
that we can get together and pray and really get the Spirit of God moving. So I'm really telling them, like, we need to get your Spirit moving, and we don't need to help God get His Spirit moving.
No.
But he reminded me when I was a kid, and I say kid, young man, I was in my 20s, and I would go to several different church services, and I remember, like, one Sunday I went to church and it was just like this, like it was boring, and I'm like, man, I can't have that happen again. So I went in this church. We had this middle room, we called it, and we called it we nicknamed it the upper room, and so I went in there before church service and I prayed, and went out and there was, it's the first time I've ever experienced it. People started laughing in the Spirit. The Spirit was so deep and drenched in the church, and I couldn't stop crying the whole service, and like, God's presence was there everywhere.
Yeah.
And so then, next Sunday I prayed again, and it kept happening, and I was the only one praying though. And then I missed a Sunday where I didn't make it in time, and it was just a normal service, and I'm like, so then I started praying, God, if nobody else in the church wants your Spirit there, I want it there. So don't do it just for me though. Do it for everybody. They all need it.
Right.
I want it, but they all need it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of experimented, which I don't know how, being young and naive, I don't know how smart that was, but he did it for me. If I would go and pray before church, we would have an amazing service. And it wasn't just me. Like, you would see people crying and spiritually touched, and people getting healed at the altar. If I didn't, we'd just have a run-of-the-mill service. And then when we had a great service on Sunday morning at our church, when I'd go to Gaylord and visit another church, I remember I'd miss weeks in between. I wouldn't go every Sunday. And I remember one Sunday going, and it had been 6 weeks since I'd been there. And we had an awesome service, like people are just, the Spirit's moving everywhere. And the pastor after church comes, oh, brother Aaron, it's so good to see you. He goes, man, we haven't had a service like that. He goes, I think it's been about 6 weeks. And I'm like, I get it. So God brought that back to me, knowing, like, you know what? I didn't do it just for you, but I did it because you prayed. So you don't need a spirit full of believers, a whole church full of believers, to get the Spirit in there for me to be there for you to meet you at your first Sunday. So we're going to go April 7th, and we're going to pray. And on, we're going to set up tear down on April 14th. I'm going to get there early, and we're going to pray, and we're going to set up, and God ordained it, and I believe His Spirit's going to be there. And I'm going to be shaking people's hands at the front door, the front gym doors, and that's the hope to be every Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to come and be like, man, I didn't even get to see her, and I didn't get to talk to him. I saw him up there preaching, but that was it. Like, I want to shake everybody's hand. I want to thank you for coming. Not just lip service, but it's genuine. Anybody that's there that wants to support and be part of this ministry and grow with this, it's exciting. And my thankfulness is going to be genuine, not just lip service. I know I'm doing it ahead of time, but it's not a planned program. It's true.
It is, because it comes from your heart. You didn't learn that. Nobody trained you. You're being obedient with your heart because you love people. You want to be around them.
Yeah.
You're genuinely glad you're there.
Right.
I just read this article today, like the 7 things that keep people from coming back to a church that they don't like about it. And one of it was, when you're visiting, make you stand up and say your name and embarrass you and whatever, all this different stuff. Well, the one that, and you've touched on it now a couple of times, was the pastor can't be found before or after service. It's like they come in like Elvis, and they come on the stage and give their sermon, and then they whisked off to a side room and they're gone. And it's like he's this untouchable person or whatever. And that, that's not you. I know that. And that's what I love about it. But it's, being accessible, being there, talking to them, letting them know you care. Just like that pastor that didn't even know you, let you in his office 2 hours talking to you.
Yeah.
If we're not going to be around people, what are we doing?
Right. And another thing you should see too is I don't know if it'll be the first Sunday. We're looking for them. I think we have some. And that is, we're trying to get lights together, so we can dim the gym lights and we can put some lights just up front. And we're not about setting the tone right, and we know what the right things to do to get God to come, and we know for us, turn the lights off isn't about God and have another light. It's about making sure that everybody's comfortable and can worship in their own way, and you don't feel embarrassed because of how you're worshiping, and you don't feel like people are looking at it. It's really about just making the people comfortable. It's not for God, it's for us.
That's right.
That's the other thing that we're working towards doing, is getting a set of lights, so that way we can dim the gym lights and turn these lights on and make everybody feel comfortable. We're not looking to put on a smoke and light show and
Right.
make it feel like, oh, God is here. We know God's going to be there.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that for Him. We're doing that for everybody else.
Exactly. Everybody's going to feel like they're in a place where they can be themselves, but they also don't feel like they're being put on the spot. We're all joining in together. And the main thing is that the Lord shows up, when you're doing that through prayer. I think it's fantastic that He brought to your mind that scenario, that sequence of weeks where prayer ahead of time. There's so many cliches I could throw at you, but what keeps coming to my mind, it's not get there and get ready. You're getting ready leading up to it. We're going to worship God and get your heart right on the way, the day before, an hour before, all those things that fall into place, So, hey, that's fantastic. We're excited. Aim for the Kingdom. It'll start April 14th there at Cadillac High School. It'll start at 11 o'clock. You should probably be able to get in hour ahead of time, half hour ahead of time, or
yeah, we're gonna be there at 10 o'clock setting up, so we should be able to get there 20 minutes, half hour ahead of time.
Okay,
we should be good to go. Can't say we'll be done setting up, but the chairs and everything will be set up.
Yeah, well, that I guarantee you'll get the rhythm down. It's good you're doing that run through, but you're starting April. By July, August, it'll be such a fluid thing, and who knows how well things will be going. It may not even look anywhere remotely close to what it did the first week,
Right. And I fully believe by then God will have added on, onto our worship team and people to help set up and all this stuff. Like, it's awesome that I just have a great family around me that's willing to just jump in and do this,
Yeah.
I don't want to say to make my dream come true, because I'm just trying to line my life up with the Word of God and what He wants for us, and he wants them to be part of it. So it's not that they're doing it for me; it's they're being obedient. So
That's right. That's right. But he gives us dreams. He gives us,
yeah,
I'll say visions, but dreams. In other words, goals, things that make your heart happy, things that you know God's calling you to do with the gifts He's given you. So, that's fantastic with that. Aaron, I appreciate you giving us a chance to talk. You're not going to. He's not leaving the Build My Church group here either. He's a vital
nope,
part of it because
yeah,
we're going to. I've been praying about ways that we can connect together and help your church as well, because that's what we're here to do. That's what the vision of Build My Church is. So we're going to connect and work together, and there's great days ahead. So I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today, and there'll be a lot more in the future.
yeah. Thank you, Brian. God bless.
All right, God bless you too, buddy.